One of the questions I'm most often asked by concerned and loving parents is, how do I get my kids off of sugar? And it is a great question. There's some really popular and unpopular answers with it. So one of the things I was really passionate about when I had my cooking school 24 years ago in Melbourne, the Food Lovers Workshop, is I was often asked by people if I would do classes for their children. And I was not crazy about that, because I wanted the children to be empowered to actually make good choices at home and not have to re-explain what I was explaining in the cooking classes. So I'd always say, I would love it if you brought your child along to the class, and then I'd do it. There's a lot of resistance to that, but can I tell you that getting children into cooking classes is one of the best ways to get them off of sugar and educate them on how they can prepare things that have very little to no sugar in it and natural forms of sugar. So using desserts that are made with fruit and without sugar. The other thing you can do is get them into gardening. So gardening and having them actually growing food right from the beginning will start to help them like vegetables. And we're talking vegetables that they might even think are quite ugly, like celeriac. Okay, so I've seen kids eat things that their parents wouldn't even eat because they started to grow them. Many schools now are doing this in Australia, the United States, and Canada. They have kitchen garden foundations with Alice Waters, Stephanie Alexander, and here in Vancouver, Sprouting Chefs, where they're actually going to schools and get children to garden, and then once they grow things, they'll bring them into the kitchen and start helping them prepare food and eating around a table where they also develop social skills. And that is absolutely fabulous. So doing all of those things, getting your kids into the kitchen, getting them into the garden, helping them shop with you, and not just at the supermarket, but taking them to a farmer's market. I can promise you that they will find the process of shopping much more engaging and interesting at a farmer's market than in a grocery store, and it'll be much easier to avoid those sugary aisles as well. Now, many years ago, I had a lot of people giving me pushback about going to farmers markets and taking their kids, because a lot of things were organized around Saturday mornings. And I'm not saying that you have to do this every Saturday morning, but try and pick at least one Saturday morning from the month and get thee to a farmer's market. Because what you'll start to notice, particularly the integrated farmers markets where they have music, they have great food, and kids can actually talk to the farmers, they can actually see how things actually come in and out of the season. What you're going to find is that they're actually going to be engaged and enlivened in the process. Many years ago, when I did a documentary, I held a microphone out to people and I said, how do you feel about shopping on a Saturday morning at a farmer's market? And I had a queue of literally like 30 people lined up, and once someone left, there'd always be someone else coming, and they were talking about how it really enriched their lives. But it wasn't just the adults. The kids actually loved being there. They were engaged, and they started to eat foods that they wouldn't necessarily eat from just bringing groceries home from the supermarket. I went to the supermarket, asked the same question, and no one was interested in talking to me, because going to the supermarket doesn't necessarily enrich our lives. And when you can show a child where our food comes from, either by getting them into the garden or going to a farmer's market and engaging them in the process of deciding what it is we're going to eat as a family. Remember, number one, my friend Kathy Lynn says in her book, Who's in Charge Anyway? You're the parent, you get to be in charge, but there's no reason why you can't engage them in the process and educate them in the process. Now, all of that is fine and wonderful, but my number one tip for getting your kids off of sugar is for you to get off of sugar first. Really unpopular to say, but I promise you is that if you think you're hiding that sugar and sneaking it away and the kids aren't seeing you eat it, I promise you, energetically, they know you're eating sugar. It's only when you get off of it and you start to develop that clarity and that groundedness, you start feeling good and you start radiating that energy, they feel that. They want more of it. Your children are much more likely to be engaged in the process of getting off of sugar if you're doing it as well and you're congruent. You will say things with a level of clarity, congruency, and authority where they come on board and they're attracted and they're drawn to do it. Maybe not initially, might take a while, might include some tears, some fights, but not having those foods in the house, even for yourself and not for them, and the only options that they have to are things that they can actually prepare themselves or things that come from nature, it's a powerful step in getting your kids off of sugar, and it will ultimately lead the entire family to having sweet freedom. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and like it, subscribe to the channel and share it with people you care about that can benefit from this, and join our incredibly supportive Facebook group. And lastly, if you're looking to get sugar-free naturally, follow the links below and find out more about the Sweet Freedom online program.